Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, Bill Reimer, your reluctant prophet. Make sure you've subscribed, ring the bell, and keep up to date with all the latest content. Today's topic, neo-Marxists who hide behind illiberalism and our present Canadian dilemma. Communists love to spread hate, as well as to call themselves liberal, to hide behind who they actually are. The result? We are living in an alternative reality, an upside-down world where postmodern cultural Marxists have created newspeak to disguise the actual meaning of words. They have done so because they believe words are not used to communicate meaning, but are tools wielded to control others. Life to them is nothing but the will to power. The chief reason they are forced to conceal their real identity is that their utopian planning is presently being revealed as an incredible dystopian lie. Fear-mongering and coercion are its key features. The result is tyranny. Yet the eventual outcome is exposing the corruption needed for our political class to resort to using such tactics. Therefore, neo-Marxism has had a profound effect on Canadian society. Up until recently, Canadians historically took everything their political leaders had to say with a very large grain of salt. We were unlike Americans in this regard, since the notion of my country, right or wrong, was not part of our zeitgeist. We have never trusted our leaders in the way that Americans often do. They are known for viewing their politicians with either an almost godlike admiration, or passionate hatred. This reality has repeatedly been evidenced by how many times there have been assassination attempts in the U.S. Throughout American history, there have been 17 direct assaults against presidents and presidential candidates. 5 of those incidents resulted in death. Here in Canada, we have never felt that strongly about our prime ministers, reflected by either a general disregard or outright mistrust of them. This attitude first began to change under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, where he was viewed with either fanatical zeal or deep mistrust and loathing. This attitude faded in February of 1984 when he resigned and did not re-emerge until his son became Prime Minister in 2015, when he was lauded by the bureaucracy as their savior. And they were right. Under his premiership, the bureaucracy has metastasized like cancer to extend its illiberal regulatory control into virtually every cloying aspect of our lives. I have read reports that up to 60% of the cost of constructing a new home are in fees, levies, and hidden taxes. But how have so many Canadians become so enamored with leaders who are doing such permanent damage to our economy? Our elected representatives have engaged in social engineering, which is changing the fundamental nature of Canadian culture. Our house was completed in 2017, the one you see here, where I'm sitting in its family room, and we moved in December of that year. At present, my entire neighborhood has been ghettoized by people from India, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, who are forcing their cultures on us rather than assimilating into ours. We are literally committing suicide by parasitical empathy as a result. But why have Canadians become so infatuated with policies that are wreaking such lasting socio-economic damage? Next subtitle is Canadians' Emotional Investment in Radical Postmodern Ideas. Emotional investment refers to the commitment of our feelings and emotions to a particular belief, person, or cause. This concept is significant in understanding human behavior and decision making. Here's how it works. 1. Identity and self-concept. Our beliefs and values are deeply intertwined with our identity and self-concept. When we emotionally invest in a belief or cause, it becomes a part of who we are. Challenging that belief can feel like a challenge to our very identity, leading to strong emotional reactions. 2. Cognitive dissonance. When confronted with information that contradicts our emotionally invested beliefs, we experience cognitive dissonance, a psychological discomfort caused by holding conflicting thoughts. To alleviate this discomfort, we might reject, rationalize, or ignore the conflicting information to project our emotional investment. To protect, rather, not project, our emotional investment. 3. Confirmation bias. Emotionally invested individuals tend to seek out information that supports their belief and avoid information that contradicts them. This is known as confirmation bias. It helps reinforce their existing beliefs and reduces the anxiety that comes from cognitive dissonance. 4. Social and cultural influences. Our social and cultural environment plays a significant role in shaping our emotional investments, particularly among the cadre of woke that we've seen emerge over the last 10 to 15 years. Friends, family, and community can reinforce our beliefs, making it difficult to change them without risking social alienation, something which I don't fear at all. I'd rather be truthful than hang out with people who believe silly things. 5. Emotional resilience and coping. Emotionally invested individuals may develop coping mechanisms to deal with challenges to their beliefs, plural. This can include rationalizing contradictory information, finding supportive communities, or engaging in activities that reinforce their beliefs. 6. Persistence and commitment. Emotional investment often leads to a higher level of persistence and commitment to a cause or belief. People are more likely to stick with their beliefs despite contradictory evidence, driven by the emotional attachment they have formed. 7. Defense mechanisms. To protect their emotional investments, people may employ defense mechanisms such as denial, projection, or rationalization. These mechanisms help them maintain their beliefs and avoid the psychological discomfort of cognitive dissonance. Understanding emotional investment can help us appreciate why people hold on to their beliefs so strongly and how emotions play a critical role in shaping our perspective and behaviors. Basically, society has become little girls, driven by emotion rather than rational thought, rather than thinking things through and assuming responsibility for their own behavior and beliefs. What the leaders of every major this is the next subtitle. It's a good one. You're going to listen to this. What the leaders of every major political party in Canada cannot tell you, since they would instantly lose all support. And I'm talking about every party. The Canadian government suggests that the rule of law does not apply to Chinese and Indian influence over our government. Why? Our overlords claim that nations with populations of 1.411 billion and 1.429 billion people, respectively, are minorities and are therefore untouchable. The only true minority in Canada today are those who can remember a time when the state did not control the narrative. There are myriads of things that our elected representatives could have done to make us freer, more independent, and prosperous. Instead, they squandered our wealth, investing it in the very countries whose citizens are fleeing to Canada to get away from the type of corruption those countries have now brought to our shores. No wonder Trump has resurrected the Monroe Doctrine and Manifest Destiny, since despite Trudeau's claims that he has resigned and prorogued Parliament, Trudeau continues to reign over us without parliamentary oversight. This is, of course, illegal, yet our weak courts do nothing. They have been bought with judges appointed to them who share the government's radical agenda. And so, we are left undefended against Trump's declaration that he will make us the 51st state, a claim that is ridiculous since no state in the Union is as large as Canada, which is the second largest nation on planet Earth. We would need to be split into fractured and disjointed pockets of people who no longer have a common story to unite them. I simply cannot imagine anything more likely to create nihilism and despair. So this is a time of cultural reckoning. My parents' generation had enemies who were external to Canada. In their time, the nation united around fighting its common enemies. Today, our greatest threats are internal. They come from those who we have elected to govern us. Never before has Canada faced such an existential crisis. Our leaders have sold us out to a fifth column operating within our borders whose goals are an existential threat to peace, order, and good government. They spell the utter ruin of the godly values that made Canada an experiment in constitutional democracy possible. As Dr. Jordan B. Peterson has stated, taking God's name in vain is not merely using the Lord's name as a curse, as most might assume. Taking his name in vain actually refers to serving one's own godless agenda while claiming that said agenda serves the highest possible purpose. This is where the sacred has collapsed into the profane to the point where society now has come to worship godlessness. We are being governed by ideologically possessed blasphemers who claim they are serving the highest possible good, yet in reality engage in the basest criminality which serves their own venal and disastrous outcomes. Next subtitle, the only possible answer. This one some of you may not like, but of course, I don't care because you need to hear it. God is a way of hemming us in, of leaving us with an either-or decision, literally a choice between death and life. From the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verses 15 to 20. Verse 15, see, I have set before thee this day life and good, death and evil. 16, and that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. 17. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shalt be drawn away, and worship other gods, and serve them. 18. I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land, whither thou passest over the Jordan to go to possess it. 19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. Verse 20. That thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and thou mayest obey his voice, and thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. We are at one such moment in time. In the Hebrew language, the word sin literally means to miss, from which the Hebrew speaker understands that that to sin means to miss the will of God, or worse, that to pretend that by serving your own godless ends, that this serves the highest possible purpose. This is the very definition of what it means to take the Lord's name in vain. From the second book of Chronicles, chapter 17, verse 14. If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. But to return and have our land healed begins with the following realization. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Psalm 51, verse 5. To the postmodernist, belief in inherent sinfulness is utter foolishness, since they believe that their project in top-down illiberal control result in creating utopia, which literally means no place. In this, they reveal their belief system is a Gnostic mystery religion to its core. How can this be, you might ask? Because neo-Marxism begins with a criticism of religion, and it ends with a religion based on criticism. I am calling you all to a day of national repentance, that our land may be healed of the likes of Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, and Jagmeet Singh, whose misguided policies have brought us to the brink of ruin. We continue to be governed by a cabal of treasonous, traitorous ideologues without parliamentary oversight, which is by its very definition illegal. This is God's punishment. We're enemies of the dominion of Canada within and without are seeking to overthrow us while robbing us of our inheritance of peace, order, and good government. If these aren't things to think and pray about, I don't know what are. God bless you all. And I hope you have a time of reflection to consider not what Bill Reimer says, who am I, but consider what the scriptures have to say in the light of our current situation. God bless you. Take good care.